Dana Bradley was born in St John's, Newfoundland, Canada on July 24, 1967. Patrick Street was where she lived with her family. Described as being bright, an excellent student and passionate about art, she was a 9th grader at I.J. Sampson Junior High School. Besides being an artistic student, Dana had a lot of friends. She had lived with her mother and stepfather. An unknown murderer took her too soon when she was just 14 years old. Her mother's birthday celebration was around 5 p.m, so she hitchhiked from a friend's house along Topsail Road. She was last seen entering a 4-door 1973 Dodge Dart or Plymouth Valiant by two brothers. Other witnesses also provided the driver's description. After Bradley called her family just before leaving her friend's house, her family became concerned when she didn't show up. They contacted the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary, and investigators discovered that a witness had seen Dana Bradley get into a car with a male driver before her disappearance. Around 2:50 p.m. on December 14, 1981, Dana left school. At a convenience store, she met with her friends. A friend of Dana's named Penny invited them to her home. Only a few hours were available for Dana to stay. It was her mum's birthday, and she was excited to celebrate with her mother and family. They informed her family that Dana was walking to the bus stop, and that she would arrive home around 5:30 p.m. Dana's last appearance or conversation was this one. Then Dana walked to the Topsail Road bus stop, waiting for the bus. Two brothers who were on a break at work spotted her. The police would later learn that Dana struck out her thumb as she hitched a ride. Their car was a light-coloured Dodge Dart or Plymouth Valiant, either from 1973 or 1976. The driver was male. There was a broken driver's side door in the car as the driver had to open from the inside. They also said it was very rusty, but didn't think to get a license plate number because of so many people hitchhiking in those days. A missing persons report was filed when she did not return home. There was a lot of talk around Dana's case. They published a picture of her in the newspaper, as well as the boots and pants she was wearing when last seen. In addition, they created a composite sketch of the man who was last seen with Dana. A man and his family were out on December 18th. A Christmas tree was on their wish list, but they decided not to go to the lot to buy one. In Maddox Cove, they hiked into the remote woods. It was also a place where people disposed of items, and it was littered with garbage. As soon as he looked at the snow, he noticed footprints. Then he saw what appeared to be a mannequin. The body was not that of a mannequin, but of Dana Bradley. The police were notified after he returned the family to the car. Smith flagged down a man who was cutting wood nearby and asked him to watch the area while they went home to Shea Heights to phone the police. There were school books tucked under Dana's arm, and her face appeared to have been cleaned. She was described as positioned in a burial fashion. Police believe the killer was remorseful, and they appealed to the public for information. On December 18, 1981, a retired principal at I.J. Sampson Junior High School was getting ready to chaperone a dance at Dana's school when the news of a body was broadcasted. CBC broadcasted the news just as he was walking through the door, he said. "My first thought was, holy hell. So I took off." He thought the dance could not be cancelled in time, and in those days, the teachers took on whatever role was needed. "I think that was the start of the shock," he said, adding the first few days after Dana didn't return, everyone still hoped it was just a kidnapping that would end in a rescue. The autopsy revealed that Dana died of blunt force trauma to the head. On the day of her disappearance, Dana's skull was fractured, and the medical examiner confirmed that they probably killed her on the same day that she disappeared. It has never been revealed if Dana was sexually assaulted or not, but there was a small amount of unknown male DNA found at the scene. Approximately 2,000 cars matching the description of the suspect vehicle were examined, over 1,000 men were questioned, and hypnosis was used to gain a better description of the suspect. The chief inspector in this case received a note in 1986. An ex-convict named David Somerton killed Dana, according to the note. David admitted killing Dana when he was confronted. As a result of being held for 18 hours, he later claimed they forced him into confessing. A 2-year prison sentence was imposed on him for public mischief and for wasting police time and resources. In 1982, a man made cruel, harassing phone calls to the Bradley family and was sentenced to 9 years in prison. It wasn't until 2014 that another suspect was raised, a man named Robert, who came forward and claimed that he witnessed the death of Dana. Despite repressing the memory of that day, Robert wanted to speak out. He identified the killer as a family friend, Thomas Cary. Thomas was a convicted paedophile as well. On that December day in 1981, Robert said he and his 4-year-old brother were with Thomas. In this account, they picked up Dana from the airport. She made conversation with the boys after giving Thomas Dana's address. He continued to drive, until he reached a wooded area and pulled over. After Dana rejected Thomas's advances and fought back, Robert said he killed her. Robert said that Thomas hit Dana over the head with a tire iron and put her into the trunk of the car. Her body was then driven to Maddox Cove, and Robert placed Dana's school books in her arms. His hope was that she would wake up and be able to go to school the next day. The car was then taken to a property owned by the Cary family in Witless Bay, according to Robert. There was, however, still much contention over buried vehicles linked to Cary. Citizens operating the Justice for Dana Bradley Facebook page fought to have the vehicles excavated and tested. In 2016, the administrators of the Facebook page hired their own forensic team after the Royal Canadian Mounted Police refused. There was no evidentiary value to any forensic evidence found in the vehicles because of deterioration. Royal Canadian Mounted Police officials did not believe Robert in 2011 when he tried to come forward. Even though Robert had a lot of information, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police did not fully believe him and said his stories could not be compared to the evidence that they had. They found that the DNA did not match that of Thomas Cary. In the first place, I would like to know why a car would be buried. It seemed very unusual to me. But according to the police, they have cleared Cary of murder charges through DNA evidence, so I find it unlikely that he was involved. Another question was, why did the police fight so hard not to dig up the car? The Newfoundland government even said they would pay for the dig, but the police still refused. Are they trying to hide something? Did they mess up the investigation? Former officers including Jack Lavers, who was one of the first on the scene in 1981, wanted to dig up the car. Did they know something about Robert that would make him an unreliable witness? Even Dana's stepfather does not hold much weight in Robert's story. Here are some quotes from a local newspaper on the subject from him. "I can't stress enough our desire to have Terry and his co-administrator stop using Dana's name in order to present biased information on a Facebook site which is supposed to be in her honour. In our opinion, this site is not about Dana, but rather about Robert and his crusade against the RCMP for not validating his accusations." Jeff replied when asked if he had anything to say to Terry. "Stop," he said. "This is no longer about Dana and you are not helping her. I'm sorry for Robert and the abuse he suffered at the hands of his alleged abuser, but he needs to let Dana's murder go and pursue his abuse case alone." Was Dana murdered by someone known to her? Someone could have offered Dana a ride that she had known who was driving by. They took a great deal of care in laying out Dana's body. Someone neatly tucked her books underneath her arm and she was wearing her school clothes. They handled her body with care as a sign of remorse, according to the authorities. This makes me wonder if Dana knew her killer perhaps. Given the vehicle and suspect description provided by witnesses, you'd think the Royal Canadian Mounted Police could have quickly identified the killer if, of course, they were accurate descriptions. My belief is that Dana may have been murdered by someone she knew, since eyewitness accounts are at many times unreliable, so the descriptions could be way off base. But was Dana murdered by a stranger who happened upon her? It is rare to kill a stranger, but it does happen occasionally. People hitchhiking alone through a darkened street are often the perfect victims of crimes of opportunity. Possibly, the murder of Dana was an opportunistic killer's first murder since he laid out her body so carefully. The killer could have also used her body as a kind of signature, fulfilling a psychological need the killer has, and repeating it during subsequent crimes of the same type. Either way, I believe Dana was murdered by a stranger who took advantage of the situation. But I also wonder if a stranger would know that the wooded area in Maddox Cove is a good place to dump a body. Of course, a stranger could be from Newfoundland, and not someone that is just passing through. It is possible that a serial killer murdered Dana while visiting family for the holidays. Around the Christmas holidays, there were other disappearances of young women. On November 12, 1984, Pamela Asprey was reported missing after getting into a car. Sharon Drover was last seen on December 29, 1978, and it is believed that she intended to hitchhike home. And finally, Henrietta Millick went missing after being harassed at a bar on December 10th, 1982. So, what happened to Dana Bradley? This case has many theories. The belief is that Thomas Cary did kill Dana and Robert told the truth all along. Some believe it is David Somerton who is the original suspect, but in my opinion there are more clues against Thomas. Dana's case needs to be solved, and I really hope that it can be soon. The year is 2023 and DNA testing has become much more reliable. I hope DNA will reveal the truth about Dana's murder. There is no evidence that any of the people who have been named in her case are involved. The DNA found at the crime scene would probably match Thomas's DNA if he had been her killer. If you have any information regarding the case of Dana Bradley, please contact the Royal Canadian Mounted Police at 709 772 5400 or call the Anonymous Crime Stoppers tip line at 1800 222 8477. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.